Hi everyone, I'm Monique Jacobs with Open Gate Quilts, and today I'm going to show you how to start doing our sew along. We are doing Quick Turn, and it is an exclusive pattern that I designed for Sherry at Bear Creek Quilting Company, and I'm so excited to get started and show you how to put it together. If you are interested in getting a kit, she has lots of kits available, and in order to follow along you will need to purchase the pattern. So if you purchase the pattern, that's great. If you purchase the kit, even better. So how do you get the kits? You go to www.bearcreekquiltingcompany.com. Our website is opengatequilts.com, and you can check out all the cool stuff that we both have on our website. This is the quilt here, and as you can see, this is my block 1 when you look at it. The actual blocks are constructed all the same way. This is block 1, and then this is block 2, and then this is block 3. Even though they're constructed the exact same way, when you look at the block, there's different colors in it. And what it does is you go from light to medium to dark, and then you go in reverse. You go dark, medium, and light. So this block here is actually again at the end. So I'm going to show you how to lay it out once we get all the blocks done. But I just wanted you to be aware that there are different blocks here. They're constructed the same way, they're using different colors, and I'm going to show you how we put the colors together. So now I'm going to show you how to put the colors together. In your kit you should have fat quarters, 3 8-yard pieces, as well as your background and your borders. I'm going to show you how to cut your fat quarters and your 3 8-yard pieces. But the first thing I need to do is I need to organize these so that I have a light, medium, dark, and I need 2 sets for each colorway. So as you can see, I've already organized this, but you can organize this on your own by taking these and putting them into little baggies and making sure that you have these organized in your colors. You can check, you can look right here on the video and take a screenshot of it so you know what it is, or you can go ahead and look at your pattern because it does have the colors. So I've got my light purple, my medium purple, and my dark, and then I have another set of it. Same thing with the greens and with the blues. Now I'm going to show you how to cut your fat quarters and your 3 8-yard pieces. So I'm going to put some aside here, and I'm going to start with the purple, and I'm going to start with the light. So one of the things that you always want to do when you're working on a new project is read your instructions before you start, especially the cutting. The cutting is super important, and if you get off, you might run out of fabric or something might go wrong, so you want to make sure that you do go ahead and read it before you start. So I'm going to cut my fat quarters, and one of the things that it says, that I say in my pattern at the top, the width of the fabric is either 42 inches, which would be your 3 8 or your yardages, or your 21 inches, which is your fat quarter. So the lights are all fat quarters, so I'm going to cut that first, so it'll be 21 inches. So what I'll do is I'm going to open this up and go ahead and open that up. And one of the things that I want to do too before I even start is to go ahead and press this. Okay, so now I have it all nice and pressed, and when I cut fat quarters I like to have them so that my salvage edge is at the top and my cut edge is even with it. So I do cut with a fold, and the reason I like to cut this way is it's much easier to cut with a fold in 2 fabrics than it is to cut 1. It'll be much easier, so that I just go ahead and do that. First thing you're going to do is you always want to trim off that raw edge that you have, because it's not straight most of the time. So I'm going to take my 1/2 inch mark on the bottom of my ruler, and I'm going to trim that and get rid of the excess. And then I'm going to flip it over, and now I'm going to be cutting. Oop, I got a little thing there, so I'm going to just trim it again and make sure that it's nice and straight. So see, it happens to everybody. Sometimes it's perfect and sometimes you need to retrim. So the next thing, I'm going to look at my instructions, and it says I need to cut one 4.5 by 21 inch strip, and I'm going to cut that into 7 4.5 by 2.5 inch rectangles. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut a 4.5 inch wide strip by 21, and again I'm using the 1/2 inch mark on my ruler plus the 4.5 because that's the width, and I cut it. And then the next thing is I need to cut that raw edge and my salvage off. So once again, I use one of my lines on my rulers and I line it up along the bottom and trim. And then I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to cut 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. Well, we know already that this is 4.5, so I'm going to cut it on 2.5, line it up on the 2.5, and I need to cut 7 of those. So I've got 6, and then what I like to do is I like to open it up. You can cut 8 because we're cutting double, but I like to cut the 7 just in case if I have all these cut and I don't use them all. What might happen is you might put it in the bag and forget, and you're like, oh no, I have an extra piece. So I always just cut what I need, and that way I know that any extra piece is either I cut wrong or is not needed. So make sure that you check that out here. Make sure you do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I need to cut a 2 7/8 by 21 inch strip. So again, I'm going to line up on the 2 7/8 inch here. And if you're not sure what 2 7/8 inch is, it's 3 inches minus 1/8. So there's that little mark in there, right between the 3/4 and the 3. And I'm going to cut that off. Once again, flip it, and I'm going to cut my salvage and my raw edge, rotate it, line here up on one of my lines, and line again up on the 2 7/8. And I need, let's see, I need 7 of these. So I'm going to cut 2, 4, 6, and then I'm going to open this up and get my 7th. Again, keep your extra. The next thing I'll do is I need to cut this diagonally once. And when you cut it diagonally once, how you do that is you take the edge of your ruler and put it from point to point. And as long as my pieces line up pretty good and they haven't moved, I can cut 2 at once. Sometimes if they move, I'll just do the 1. And you want to cut those. And then the last one, again, from point to point. Now once you have those done, the next thing it says is I need to cut 3 2.5 inch strips. And if you feel more comfortable just cutting all your strips at once and then going back and subcutting, that's fine. I am just doing it separately so I can show you exactly what you're cutting. So again, lining up at the bottom and on 2.5, and I'm going to cut all 3 strips. Get that one out of the way here, right now. Okay, and always keep, oops, get my in there, always make sure you keep all your extra. Just in case you cut wrong or you need an extra piece for some reason, you have that extra. And again, I'm going to cut these down into 2.5-inch squares. So the first thing you'll do is to cut your excess off there, your salvage and your raw edge, and line it up on 2.5 and cut as many as you can. Usually it's about 8. And I'll keep cutting all my strips until I get my total number needed, which is 21. So once I have that fat quarter cut, what I'll do is I'm going to take my bag and I'm going to put here, and I'm going to put, make sure we've got block A. So once I have that cut, I'm going to take all my pieces, pretend these are cut, and I'm going to put it in my baggie with block A. I've got that. And then the next thing I'll do is I'm going to cut my medium and my dark, and then I'm going to do that for all my fabrics. When I have everything cut, I'm going to make sure I match my colors together. So I have purples and greens that go together. I have greens and blues that go together, and blues and purples. So you're going to have 3 blocks, and you're going to have fabrics that go with each block. So even before you start cutting, you could even put them together and have them ready to get going. So I would have these, and so my block A would be these 6 fabrics. So I'd cut my lights, my mediums, and my darks, get those all done and put them in block A. Then mark your block B, and where you see your colors is on the instructions. So the next ones, we're going to use 3 of my blues and 3 of my greens. So this one goes with this, and then this one goes with this, and I'm going to put them right in the bag. And once I cut them, like I said, they'll all be ready. And then I only have 2 sets left, so they go together. So again, I'm going to put block C, and once they're all cut, we'll put them in here. After I've cut all my colors, you need to cut your background. Your background is cut again just like we did with the 3/8 in strips. So I'm going to actually show you one, so how we would do them. Get rid of all these out of the way. Again, and you can, this is what I do when I have scraps. I go ahead and grab one more bag and put scraps. Because I don't know about you, but my sewing room isn't always as organized as I would like it to be. And if I keep all my scraps together, then I know that these are scraps. And you can even put the name of the quilt, just in case you're doing couple quilts with the same fabrics. You could put quick turn here. And then I always keep all my fabrics, before I start sewing, I put them in a basket or one spot so that I know they're all ready, and all I have to do is grab my fabric and my block, get going. Alright, so let me show you, I'm just going to show you one strip of your background. The reason I want to show you this is that your background is again the 42 inches wide, so I want to make sure that you know how to cut that. And as you can see, I don't have the full yardage here, but I am going to show you how we do cut. So the first thing, again, I'm going to read my instructions. So for my background, I need 14 6.5 by 42 inch strips, 7 4.5 by 42 inch strips, and 22.5 by 42 inch strips. So my suggestion is either cut all your 6.5 inch strips, subcut them all. Sometimes you have extra that you can use for your next strip. It's up to you if you want to do it this way, or if you want to cut all your strips and cut everything down. And I've cut all these before, so I know that this works, so don't worry that you might not have the right amount of fabric. You should be just fine. So the first thing, like we always do, is we make sure, let's pull this up a little bit just to make sure we can see it a little better, is you make sure you line up the one of the lines along the bottom, because I want to get all this raw edge off there. And I'm going to cut it. So instead of cutting 21 inches, now we're at 42 or larger, which usually is, but that's usually the minimum. And then I'm going to take my ruler, and this is actually a 6.5 inch ruler. So all I have to do is line up one of my lines at the bottom and cut off the edge here, or make sure the edge is straight there, and cut it. And then I would keep cutting till I get all my strips, my 6.5 inch strips cut. And then the next thing, it's just like doing the fat quarters. You're going to go ahead and cut your raw edge off, and then cut 6.5 inch squares. And cut as many as you can out of your strip set here. And I have a little bit left. And as you can see, I have a little bit left. So I always keep my scraps just in case I am cutting and I can use it for my next strip set. Next thing I do is I cut 4.5. So actually I could cut a 4.5 inch square out of it. And I also need 4.5 by 2.5 rectangles, so I can also cut that out of it. So now that we're done cutting, all you have to do is wait till next week to start we're going to start putting it together. If you want a kit, go on to www.bearcreekquiltingcompany.com. She has kits, and in order to follow along, you'll need to purchase the pattern, and you can get that on that website as well. So we'll see you next week. Bye.